From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, space journalist and meteorologist Eric Berger, with Gina Grad on news and Bald Bryan on sound effects. And now, he'd be extra pissed about those banned Dr. Seuss books if he could read. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but gonna manage to get it on. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian.
Of
course.
Play it again.
Worth it.
Play it again, Brian.
But I would love to. There's a spinning pinwheel of death here.
Oh, okay. Well, screw it. All right. So Eric Berger's got a book, Elon Musk and the desperate early days that launched SpaceX. So we can talk about space and SpaceX. He has all this access and has for many years with SpaceX. Because I'm very curious about it is so ambitious. What is more ambitious? You want to start a company where you sell brand muffins from your apartment. That's a little lower on the I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to Mars is I think about as ambitious as you can get in an all-encompassing way. So I'm curious.
That's swinging for the fences right there.
Yeah, I'm curious how that went. Things to catch up on. First off, there is an app that people can put on their phones, and Max Zapata can find it. It's like a directional finder for a friend who has the app. Where are they? Kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
I guess. But
I sadly invented this in my mind back when I was going to USC tailgates, because how hard is it to fucking find a tailgate? You're like, just, if you could plot it into your phone, I'll plot it into my phone, you just walk right to me. Here we are.
This literally would point the direction. If I had Gina and Bryan in my phone, not that anybody would,
right.
But if you did, and I went like, where's Bryan? It would point to where Bryan is. Like, it's literally north-south thing. Like, here's, I guess in a way, it's like when you're driving in your car and you put the compass mode on the dashboard, right. And it's like, well, north is straight up, but you're going slightly to the right of that. But anyway, that's the direction you're traveling. Anyway,
it sounds like it's not necessarily sex grinder.
No, but it's super satisfying, because something I've talked about in the past is one of my pet peeves, and I don't know, this might be part of what makes me a dick, is if I was like in a office building, like a high rise in Century City with some Comedy Central executive, and he'd go, well, people inevitably do that thing where they go, I live in Hollywood, but I got a place in Malibu. And then they would point, I got a place over in Malibu. And I would always go, you're pointing toward Hacienda Heights. And they'd go, no, it's Malibu. And I go, you're pointing toward downtown. Malibu's behind. Malibu's the other direction. And some people would laugh. Others would argue vehemently. Oof. Others, then you'd have to do a move where you go, I'm telling you, you're pointing toward downtown. And they go, well, if we go to the atrium, there's a big window where you can see downtown. And I'd go, all right, keep your finger pointing the same direction. Now let me walk you out. No, don't start moving it. No, you're pivoting. You're moving. So I'm sitting there with Natalia, and we're doing our painting last week or the week before. And we're just sitting on the same side of the table in the dining room. And she goes, after this, I'm going to go over to my friend Devin's house. And then she points the wrong direction. And then I go, your friend's Devin's house is that way. And I point the other direction. And she goes, no, it's that way. Everyone always, I don't know why people are supremely confident in the direction their hand randomly goes out to when they're talking about something, but they know it, man. She's like, no, it's that way. And I go, no, she's that way. You got to go up the street and then around the whatever. And she goes, hold on, I'll find it. And she puts this app up on her phone, and then she goes, see, Devin is, and it's exactly the direction I was pointing. And I was like, I've never been more satisfied in my life. Like, hey, buddy. So total vindication, although it shouldn't mean anything.
Congratulations? Question mark?
Yes. I don't know. Anyone has ever been in that move where they go, it's that way, and they go, no, it's that way. Whatever, if it's a county or a friend or a location, to then 2 seconds later pull up on the phone and have an arrow pointing the exact way you were pointing. I was like, oh, satisfying. So,
Andy, can you get this clip for me and mail it to me? I'm going to need to explain to Tessa someday what a Pyrrhic victory is.
yeah, that's right. That's what it is. Look, it reminded me a lot of the great Annie Hall scene, or was it Manhattan?
No, with Marshall McLuhan.
Yes, you clearly know nothing of my work. Like we all have stupid arguments about nothing, and we all hope that there's some way to satisfy this almost immediately.
Yeah, Woody Allen is more or less kind of came up with the ethos of the smartphone. It's
Right.
like we've only had the answer right here in line at the movie.
That is now the leader in the clubhouse. The first that knocked this one off the top spot, which is me sitting at Marie Callender's, which was, I think, just called Callender's across the street on Wilshire Boulevard.
The fancy one, yeah.
One, that's right.
Yes, and
Callender's was upscale.
I was having one of my, you lopping off a word or two at the top of whatever it is, like. Oh, this isn't the Red Roof Inn. This is the inn.
Right.
But it's the
Just
same
the inn.
building in the same place. Like, okay, so
But this Marie Callender's had a piano.
this
It
Marie,
did.
we used to go there after work on occasion, and I was having one of my discussions with the poor waitresses in my life, which is,
You get fancy diarrhea.
I want iced tea. And they're like, we have passion fruit iced tea. And I'm like, that's not iced tea. I want regular iced tea. And then she's like, most people enjoy passion fruit iced tea. And I go, I cannot imagine that if people are ordering iced tea, they want something that doesn't taste like iced tea. Can I get just regular? And she goes on this thing, like, most people are very happy with, and at some point, some saint of a woman, like one table over, who heard us arguing, went, oh, excuse me, is it passion fruit iced tea? And the waitress went, well, yeah, it is. And she went, oh, then cancel my order. And I went, oh, another satisfied customer. Everybody loves the passion fruit. It's just me and this strange woman who don't want it in here, who happen to be sitting next to each other. That was the greatest moment of my adult life, and now it's been replaced with the arrow. But
What is this app? I need it.
I don't know. I know there's ones where you can find out like where your kids are, how far away they are from the house. Like,
Yeah, Find My iPhone is
Yeah.
essentially that.
yeah, Sonny goes for a walk every night. And at some point, if I say to Olga, where's Sonny? I want to eat dinner. So you want to eat dinner? And she'll go like, he's, heading down our street. He should be home in a minute. Like she'll have
Tied
eyes
to a
on
stray
him.
dog.
Yeah. So
He's licking his nuts.
go on,
He's
get.
brushing his own ear with his foot.
Oh my God, he's in lanes on the freeway. So the other version of this, or I don't know, tying it back to food and what people want and what people don't want. So I was in Oklahoma City, which is nice. Oklahoma City's a nice place. All these places you never formally thought about going to are all pretty damn nice now. And now my quest, and here's the quest, have not gone out to breakfast or eaten indoors, have not had breakfast indoors in a long time being from Los Angeles. And one of my greatest loves is going out to breakfast and eating indoors. Now, here's something you guys can agree with or not. For me, when I go out to breakfast, I'll oftentimes get like the Denver omelet, and that's just, cheddar cheese and onion and cubed up ham, and
Pepper.
they're all pretty good. I've never really, they make them all the same. The expensive ones are about the same as the cheap ones. I mean, I'm graduating from IHOP a little here, but I'm just talking about a standard thing. For me, it's all about the hash browns. I want the goddamn hash browns. I want hash browns.
I don't want home fries. I don't want cottage fries.
Oh, ours are cubed new potatoes, but they're red skin, but we leave the skin on.
No.
It's like, I want hash browns. I want hash browns because it's breakfast. And there's a dance. There's a beautiful, majestic dance that goes on where you get a little hash brown on the fork and you get a little omelet on the fork and you do a drive-by on the blob of ketchup. You just you don't
just graze it.
Don't dunk it. Just
No.
graze it on by. And if you get the Tabasco ketchup ratio just right, couple of splashes of Tabasco that are on the ketchup, then you just do that slide-by move where you graze it. It all goes into the mouth. It's the hash brown's a little crunchy on the outside, moist
Mouth
on the
is watering.
inside. I know.
Dying right now.
I have not had a hash brown in 4 years. My mouth is watering.
It's the best, but of course,
It's just crispy on there.
the problem is, now here's where the fundamental problem comes in. You would like to go to a cool breakfast joint, like That's All Yolks or some place like that. And because they got some cool stuff on the menu and you think the stuff's generally going to be a little higher shelf, the bacon will be a little better, the meat will be a little better. But as soon as you get past the greasy spoon, as soon as you get past the Waffle House, now you're getting into a no man's land of breakfast potatoes, not hash browns. Now, I have the same argument as I do with the restaurant and the iced tea. You may pursue your folly by experimenting with something that isn't broken named iced tea. Go ahead, do the wild berry, do the fucking passion fruit, do whatever you want, but you must first offer iced tea as we know it, sort of like the compulsory part of the figure skating. You have to do this, and then you can go wild during the freestyle.
You have to know the rules so you can break it.
Right, and I feel the same way about the potatoes. Like it's that thing, and by the way, the waitress and waiter never have their head fully wrapped around what they're offering. They go, comes with potatoes, and then you go, hash browns, and they go, well, they're like they're potatoes.
They're brown.
They're cut up.
Potato based.
They're cut up, and then you go, are we talking about like cubed up potatoes? And they go, I don't know. It's like all you do is serve these things. Give me a visual, baby.
Put a ring on that player.
So it's funny. I did Brett Favre's podcast today, and I was yelling about hash browns, and he's like, "You ought to go to the Waffle Hut. You can get them cheesy hash browns, you can get meaty hash browns. You can I know, and I'm with you, but I don't want to go to a Waffle Hut.
Yeah,
I want to go to a cool place that has a better, more interesting selection of breakfast items, but I want my goddamn hash browns. So I went to one place
in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma City, which is this, and by the way, this is the good and the bad of these cities being, progressive
Trendy.
enough and cool enough to where you walk through them and you go, oh, I could see living here one day or something like that. Yes, but with that comes the destruction of hash browns as we know it. So I go to the first place on Saturday, and Saturday's like, we have the cubed up ones. And here's the other scary part, too. You'll always eat their potato offering. You'll get all the carbs. Don't worry. You'll be just as fat as if you just won't enjoy it like
Correct.
you did. But you went to another place, very good, very trendy, very everything, had hash brown balls. And it was kind of interesting. It was like a ball the size of a little bigger than a golf ball, a little smaller than a tennis ball, kind of like a hush puppy. And then you eat them, and of course the person sitting across from you goes, "Well, I like these, but I'd rather have hash browns." And I go, "Me too." So would everybody. What is that thing?
And that also means that 90% of it is just the kind of doughy, soggy potato. It's not crisp.
It's whatever it is not what you want. It's not what you grew up with. And all I'm saying is let's not outsmart ourselves, people. There ain't nothing wrong with hash browns. It ain't broke. Do not fix it. Have them, or be fluid, nimble, and flexible enough to go, we'll just make you hash browns. We got a bunch of ground up potatoes. Like, that's the whole thing. You got all your potatoes back there. They're all fucking ground up and everything. They're all sliced up. Just
flatten it out.
Just flatten it out.
You know how I did that story a while back where whatever state it was, looked to Chick-fil-A to help with their vaccination lines because Chick-fil-A is so good at that? Mm-hmm. All these cool cottage, pardon the pun, restaurants need to look to Dupars in Los Angeles to get your hash bag base, and then you can move on to whatever you want.
Agreed. So let's get back to that world. On another bizarre note, I was watching the news this morning. I've been seeing a lot of sign language people these days because now that's the new thing. And I think Cuomo was making a speech and he had the sign language guy next to him. Guy had a 40-year-old dude with hair down past his shoulders. And I thought, there's something going on with the hair on sign language people. I'm seeing crazy. I see everything but a crew cut. I don't see anything that I would call a normal haircut on any of these people, and I don't know what the through line is. Now, these guys are all doing their own thing. They're all cut from some different cloth, but they're never just a straight dude or woman. The women have crazy-ass hair. The dudes have crazy-ass hair. And we can all agree that certain professions require certain hair. Like airline pilots, not a lot of range. Just the same sort of normal hair. That guy's hair is inspiring confidence in me.
Right.
There's something going on with the sign language people. It either attracts people with weird hair or people who are in it start doing weird things with their hair. But they all got funkified, weird-ass hair. Thoughts?
Keep in mind, too, the interpreters themselves are not deaf. So maybe that has nothing to do with, actually being hearing impaired, Gina, because they have to
deaf
hear.
people have weird hair?
No, I'm saying don't try to make a connection between deaf people and weird hair. I'm pre-warning you.
No.
Look, I can see your look.
Brian, no, I don't think anyone was doing
that. No, I'm pretty sure
right.
most people are thinking that.
Let me float.
Going down that route.
Let me float a theory.
If it's offensive and I haven't thought of it, you're in a very small minority.
Let's talk about Dr. Seuss.
So here's my theory. And I was about to say I could be way off, but I think Brian set a new limit. So I might be within the realm of this making sense. A lot of those dudes and women, but I know what you're talking about. And I've noticed the dudes, they have a bit of a Dungeons and Dragons vibe.
Yes.
And it's that kind of hair, like the LARPing, the live action role playing. I think that might be the self-selecting group of which you speak.
Can we establish one haircut and one windbreaker that these guys wear? Because they always inevitably pull focus. They always get me, who's not hearing impaired, staring at the guy with his crazy hair and his hands flapping around because I'm like, who is this dude? And next thing you know, I have no idea what's going on in the press conference. I'm completely sucked into this guy's tractor beam.
True, but the other side of that coin, there have been some rock stars to come out of these press conferences. Sassy women who you just are enthralled with.
The guys who are getting into the body movements.
Yeah. Like the ones you see when the videos go around on Facebook of the woman who stands to the right of, Flo Rida or Eminem or whatever at the concerts. And does all the signing. They're starting to get into rock stars, sass attitude territory, which I find delightful.
The other thing I was thinking about was, let me check my notes here. Oh, so Dr. Seuss at the top of the show. So I woke up this morning and I heard that they were pulling some Dr. Seuss books or they were getting semi-canceled or whatever. I think it's its own foundation that's doing it. But the movement has got around to Dr. Seuss is really what I woke up to find this morning. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, wasn't I kind of joking? Well, I wasn't really joking, but I was talking about Dr. Seuss is going to get canceled or he's gotten canceled because he's older than a certain age. He's white and he created a large body of work. There's the thing is if you are, I think Dr. Seuss would have been, 128 today or something like that. If you are old, you are white, heterosexual, and created multiple books or multiple films or multiple whatever. If you were around long enough and had a long enough career, someone's going to go back, let their fingers do the walking through your yellow pages, and then we're going to figure out why your stuff was offensive. The stuff you did in 1949, we're going to find out why it's offensive by 2021 standards. But I thought, didn't that happen? So we'll play you just the news, I think, this morning. Is it a CNN clip we have here? Yeah, here it is.
New this morning, 6 Dr. Seuss books will no longer be published because they contain racist stereotypes and insensitive imagery. The late author's company announced the move this morning, saying the books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Best known among the books are And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street and If I Ran the Zoo, Dr. Seuss. No? These are the ones that they were not sell.
Got it.
That's the point. It's The Cat in the Hat is still being sold.
Okay.
The Grinch Stole Christmas, One Fish, Two Fish. The books that I think you know really well will still be sold.
Okay.
These are the books that they say contain racist themes, tropes, and images. And frankly, if you read them, you can see that the way they portray Africans and Asians, among other things, is insensitive to say the least. The other books, though, will continue to be sold.
Oh, he was born in 1904.
Really interesting.
Yeah,
so
look.
I haven't read this for a long
Read it.
time, so
really interesting.
It's good stuff.
Good cross.
Maybe it gets into the realm of interesting. I don't know about really interesting, but okay, fascinating shit. So I said to Max Pato when I drove in, I said, weren't we talking about Dr. Seuss or something on the show a few weeks back? And I was talking about him getting canceled. And Max Pato went and dug up this clip of Nostradamus in his crystal brain from us playing Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and this is January 10th.
January 10th.
All right, we'll stop with the poetry and leave it that to the experts like Dr. Seuss. Did you know there are 45 books, both written and illustrated by the man? Several of them have been adapted into movies, including this one starring Mike Myers from 2003, The Cat in the Hat.
Dr. Seuss is a racist, right?
Is he? I thought Yertle the Turtle was about battling Nazism.
I think Seuss was. I think you're thinking of someone else.
No, I mean, he's been labeled a racist in the last 10 minutes. I guess he can
Theodore
cancel.
Roald Dahl.
He was born before
Roald Dahl.
He was born before 1960, and he's
Isn't he
white,
Jewish?
right?
Theodore Geisel.
Yeah,
That's a
both those are
no-brainer.
true.
But don't we find his works problematic now? I thought we're finding.
I think he's into
problematic.
Claire.
All
I think
right.
he's beloved.
Well, see if you can find anything on him being his work. being
Google Adam
racist.
Right.
Google me right.
Will do.
I remember hearing something. It's like you can't create literature or art or any or win a war. You can't do anything and have done it 50 years ago and not have some baggage hanging on you now. All right, well, we found it.
Wow. And not a friend in the room when you brought that up.
Well, it wasn't a thing a month and a half ago, and here we are, and it's all over the news.
Well, it's a thing that the reason I just sit around and kind of, I'm like the Indian who puts his ear to the ground and it's like, he has a bad feeling. Squanto has a bad feeling. It's like, what? And the white guys are like, there's nothing wrong with these wagon trains. Bad feeling.
You're touching leaves and you're letting dirt go through your fingers.
Yeah, I'm like the guy in Predator. Was that it? Billy. Yeah, I'm standing up on that log. Knew. Yeah, you just knew. Because there's an easy math. Just old, white, done a lot of work. We shall go find something. We shall find something.
And we'll find it. I don't know if you saw what one of their examples is, but it's I don't see a lot of people checking this book out at the library.
Well,
If I ran the zoo, the report says the 3 Asian characters are carrying a white male on their heads while the white man holds a gun. The text beneath the Asian characters describes them as, quote, helpers who all wear their eyes at a slant from countries no one can spell.
Yeah. Is that my picture, Kaylin? I went to Tessa's room this morning because I'm like, I'm pretty sure she has at least one of these. Turns out she had both the zoo book and Mulberry Street. And there's imagery that would certainly not fly today if someone went to publish this. So it's outdated at the least. It's kind of grotesque caricature stereotypes.
Well, did he? So they went. I'm looking at. I don't have a lot of research history on this, but it strikes me that he went to some faraway land, like somewhere in Tibet or something, to catch this weird creature, like to bring them back. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, he's this kid's fantasizing. If he ran the zoo, he'd go to the corners of the earth and bring back exotic animals that didn't exist. They're Dr. Seuss animals.
Right, but first things first, the corners of the earth would all have to have different people, right, who inhabited those corners.
Sure, that's how we
Sure,
know.
the whole
right?
book is, this guy's Russian and this guy's whatever.
Yeah, and then so this guy. So what was the description, Gina? I'm sorry.
It was helpers who all wear their eyes at a slant from countries no one can spell.
But what was the description of it?
Oh, sorry. 3 Asian characters are carrying a white male on their heads.
Well, they're carrying the beast
a cat
on their head.
Well, but above him,
It's a Zumba Matim.
Well, it seems weird to say carrying the white.
Well,
I don't know
look at the dude on top of the cage. That's what they're looking at, I think, with the gun.
But who described it that way as carrying a white male?
The research paper.
Right, but they're like a Sherpa in a sense. I mean, they're carrying this exotic cat, and he's the white guy who came from presumably this country to nab the cat. Right?
Dominated, yeah.
Yes. All right. But it's not really carrying him as much as it's carrying the cat, and he's standing on top of it. I mean, it seems weird to drill down this far. Like the part where you go to different places where there's different people and they look different and their eyes are different and you get in their places you can't pronounce or something. I don't know why that's inherently offensive. Well, now, the guy's got a gun and he is on top of the cage that they're carrying, but I think there's a description of this that's probably less problematic sounding that they don't really give you.
And countries no one can spell says a little bit more about us than the people in those countries. I'm sure they can spell it.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I don't know if that one falls under the heading of, deeply whatever. But the point is they're going to go find it. And it shall be brought up, and that's where we're at. Now, I don't know, like when I grew up, there was a lot of, when we all grew up, but there's a generation that grew up and they had stuff that was derogatory toward many different characters and many different cultures and many different people. But I always kind of just looked at it as I think the way healthy people would look at 2 drinking fountains in Alabama in the 50s. I was like, well, that was stupid. But it wasn't that I didn't want to know about it. I wanted to know about it and then go, that's where we were. That's how we used to think. And now we don't think that way anymore. But my plan was never like get rid of the vestiges of it or the imagery of it.
Right. Don't publish any pictures of this time.
Yeah, my feeling is I think we all learn a lot from where we're at. And then what you could say is this guy, who was this beloved guy who loved children, even he still worked in this realm of stereotypes and this, that, and the other. Again, that one to me wasn't that bad because people look different from where you're at. And there are places you can't pronounce and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, they're coming after Dr. Seuss.
That's right. And besides Bryan, I would venture to guess that if silently these, 6 books were just silently kind of, taken out of publication, nobody would have noticed.
I've never heard of
these.
I'm still in the market for Dr. Seuss.
No, but we have a ton of Dr. Seuss books here and none of those made the cut. I know the Mulberry Street one, but otherwise, who would have noticed that these were taken out of circulation?
Well, it's on now. So Seuss, even predicted it a month and a half ago. And by the way, there's six down, but there's another 41 to go. I mean, who knows? We may
54.
add to that death toll. I got a funny Mike August travel story about Dennis Quaid to tell you about. Made me and Max Paddle laugh. First, I'll do that in the next segment. First, I'll tell you about Tommy John paying a little more for the upgrade. Yeah. Get the 75-inch TV over the 50-inch TV. Get the ribeye instead of the sirloin. Go business instead of Coach and upgrade to Tommy John underwear. When you're wearing Tommy John, you're so comfortable. You do everything better. Dozens of comfort innovations. Once you try Tommy John, you're never going back. Tommy John doesn't have customers. They have fanatics. I'm wearing mine right now. I'm wearing the T-shirt and the underwear. It's the best, especially if you're working out, especially if you're trucking around, walking around, getting your exercise, keeps everything in place. Over 13 million pairs sold. Comes with the no rolling waistband for the perfect fit and the no wedgie guarantee. It's Tommy John, right, Dawson?
Returns and exchanges are free, and right now get 15% off your first order at TommyJohn.com/Adam. That's 15% off at TommyJohn.com/Adam. Tommy John underwear and loungewear. TommyJohn.com/Adam. See site for details.
All right, we'll take a break. Come back with the funny Mike August story right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Keith, 40, Pennsylvania. Hey, Ace, or should I say douche nozzle. Thanks a lot for talking about all those racist cartoons Hustler had back in the late 70s and early 80s. My wife just listened to that episode, and she canceled my subscription. Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Well, on topic, you know. It doesn't mean those things didn't exist, and it also, the reaction is the healthy reaction, which is, oh my God, I can't believe that's things that we used to do or that were published.
Yep.
And in the Hustler era, it was like into the 80s. All right. So we were getting on the flight that was going from
Dallas
to Oklahoma City, and Max Zapata reported that Dennis Quaid was on the flight with us.
Oh.
He'd spotted him. Yeah. And so I thought, ooh, well, maybe I'll sit next to Dennis Quaid. I love Dennis Quaid. So then I got on. We boarded the flight. It was a miniature little flight and a miniature little plane and miniature first class. And I found my seat in first class with no Dennis Quaid. So then I thought, is he on this flight? He's got to fly first class. It was a very short flight, but imagine he would be. So at some point, I think Max Zapata went into the main cabin and maybe informed me that Mr. Quaid was on the flight.
Yeah, I saw him right when I walked into the main cabin.
So he's sitting against the window in coach, and he has this young woman next to him. I would say had a lot of tats.
A lot of tats, pink hair, big like purple headphones. Looked like a Twitch streamer.
Mm-hmm. Could have, I don't know how old she was, 25, 24, something, looked youngish.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and so I come in and I talk to Quaid, and Quaid is going to play Dick Vermeil in the Kurt Warner story. And if you actually picture Dick Vermeil during those Greatest Show on Turf years with the Rams, you can kind of say, oh, yeah, I could see Dennis Quaid being a good Dick Vermeil.
It's gone from quarterback to coach. Maybe
That's
give him
right.
Sunday to whatever this is.
And the Kurt Warner story sounds pretty good, so he was going to do that. So I talked to him for a minute, and he had this thing where he cobbled together two masks, I think.
Yeah, so one of his masks was broken, so he wore one on the front, and then he used another mask to tie it around the back. So he had a mask on his the back of his head too, just so he can keep the one in front intact.
They were both the blue sort of throwaway surgical ones, but he was double masking it. But I don't think the way Fauci would have wanted him to do it.
More makeshift.
Well, but Fauci wasn't clear when he said two masks are better than one. Maybe Quaid just went, I got two masks. One of them's on the nape of my neck, but so be it.
Technically, he's a double masker.
So he had one mask sort of around the back of his neck, and the other one was up front. I don't know if he was doing a great job of the front one either, but either way, there he was. And I talked to him for a couple of beats, and then I went and sat down, and August sat right next to the girl. So it was the aisle was full. I mean, they're now doing three people. They're not leaving that middle seat open. They don't appear to be leaving the middle seat open anymore.
Right.
So there she was. And again, you got to picture her looking like Harley Quinn.
Yeah, like an anime character almost.
She's like an anime character. It was like 24 years old. So then when we got to the club, and I was talking to Mike, Chris and I were, and I was like, how was Quaid? He's like, hey, he's good. I said, how was the crazy chick? Oh, man, nervous. She was nervous, foot shaking, leg shaking the whole time. I said, probably scared to fly, huh? And he goes, probably nervous, sitting next to Dennis Quaid. And I said, I don't, he had a mask on, a baseball cap, like sunglasses. He's 67. She's 22. shouldn't look like
She's
visibly shaking.
She had her big headphones on and was playing a video game the entire time.
It's the guy from Breaking Away.
You know Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yeah. And so, of course, Chris and I, because we always have to have fun, which is, you think she was nervous about her foot was moving all over the place? I go, yeah, but probably just nervous to fly. Nervous to be sitting next to Dennis Quaid, that is. I'm like, I don't know if we talked him out of that one, did we?
Plus, you got two guys on both sides of you leaning over you to have a conversation, and you don't know who either of them are.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to be a little nervous. Like, why are you talking over me?
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say she's out of the demo. I don't think she stopped him for an autograph or anything. No. So, but if we see Dennis Quaid next time, let's go back to Mike's story.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a plane full of fans, all nervous to be in coach
Sweating.
with you. Yeah.
Cap Rooney.
Yeah.
Why was he in coach?
Well, that was the second part of our discussion in the green room at Oklahoma City, which is, here's what I've found. Productions will give you a first-class ticket. But if you want to fly home and fly back, like that's on your own dime. I suspect he flew somewhere and came back or did something. That doesn't feel, or also he had a Vin Diesel theory.
No, Mike said, "Oh, I bet he wanted to go home. He just moved to Nashville. He wanted to go home. He just wanted to get set up with the house. And like Mike had this whole elaborate story of why Dennis Quaid was flying coach.
Yeah, he knew exactly what Dennis ate for breakfast. Just the Vin Diesel. You're right.
The profiler.
He did a 10-minute dissertation on what was going on in Dennis's life and how that led to his coach seat. And I said to him, this is like that scene in Fast 7 or 6 or whichever one when Vin Diesel. I love any scene in a movie where the guy goes back to the place of the accident or the crime or the execution of his girlfriend or something. They take a knee and they like look at the skid marks on the street and then they close their eyes and they hear all the dialogue from the situation and then the guy pulls the gun out and they share him. She begs for mercy and he laughs in her face. Like, how do you glean all this from this set of tire tracks?
You become partly a medium when you do that.
Yes, yeah, but it's weird that when you're watching the movie, you kind of go along with it because he closed his eyes,
right?
And he's there now. He's at the scene. So I told Mike he was doing that with Dennis Quaid.
Picked up his bag of discarded peanuts and fashioned a whole story.
I think Mike had tuned out by then, right?
Yeah,
because they had candy They had candy in the green room.
Yeah, they had a lot of candy.
Mike got into the candy.
I don't know if you brought this up to Quaid or not. I doubt you did because that's poor form. The bar has been raised, set very high for portraying Dick Vermeil on screen because he was portrayed in the movie Invincible by Greg Kinnear, who looked a ton like him and talked a ton like him. Like Greg Kinnear killed it in Invincible. Chris, I don't know if you got that message.
Yeah, he was good as a guy who studied Dick Vermeil closely for a lot of years. He looks like somebody's lesbian partner. Oh. He has just but not in an ugly way. Like he's kind of well-defined, kind of attractive guy. Like
a matronly school teacher. Like puts yourself together.
Yes. If you have he will. I could see him. I could see them both looking very Vermeil-y. But I could see Quaid as Dick Vermeil.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh wow.
There's Dick Vermeil, and there's, who was that
Greg
again?
Kinnear.
Greg Kinnear, yeah. That was a good enough movie, right? It's kind of a fun movie to watch.
Everything you want out of that movie. It's sort of Disney-fied, but it's a great story, and fine.
All right. Do we have calls up there, Max Pata? Oh, Sam's 27. He's calling from Philadelphia by Cracky. Well, there you go. Sam?
Hey, guys, what's up?
Hi, Guy. You're a big Dick Vermeil fan coming from the Philadelphia area, right?
Oh, I'm definitely not a sports guy. Big car guy, not a sports guy.
What's going on in Philly? How's the town? OKC, by the way, wide open. Walk into any restaurant, sit down, go to a breakfast place. Don't get hash browns, but the place is still packed. The distancing part, I'd say a lot of businesses they're pretty good with the masks. Everyone's pretty good with the mask, but these places fill up. If you got a restaurant, you want to make money, you want to put some fannies and some booths, and they do. But go ahead, Sam.
Oh, I'm like on the suburbs of Philly. We stopped caring like 6 months ago. Everything's been open. Good to go.
Wow.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, like I said, when you come from L.A., I mean, the one good thing about doing traveling during COVID and leaving L.A. is it makes it nice when you start planning on going out to dinner and going out to eat. We went out to, we went out on Saturday to Mickey Mantle's in OKC, and they're like, here's your private room. They gave us like a room in the back, windowless room and a big banquet table. It was nice. Yeah. So what's your question, Sam?
Well, I started an OnlyFans like about a month ago, and I've already made $15 grand. And you guys keep bringing it up on the show, so I thought I'd call in and just brag about it pretty much.
I have so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. This has been suggested to me more than once. I don't know how much TNA you got to show, but what's the vibe? Because I am very seriously considering this.
So my friends all told me I should start doing this. I model on the side. I'm a mechanic, but I do modeling on the side. So like, you should just start an OnlyFans and see how much money you can make. So like 6 months ago, I started a separate Instagram, fake name and everything. And this car came up for sale like 2 months ago, and I didn't have the money for it. So I'm like, if I start my OnlyFans now, I might be able to come up with some cash. So started an OnlyFans. I have like 8,000 followers on Instagram, and I had like 400 go over to my OnlyFans, and they pay a 10-month subscription fee, and I show, little this, little that, and I've made 15 grand so far.
Right.
Is it all like physical skin based? I mean, does anyone do an OnlyFans where they review video games or something?
That might
It's
exist,
OnlyFans.
but that is not mine.
Yeah, Gina, they don't want your cauliflower pizza dough recipe.
But
They want
what
titties
if I
and
make
ass.
it? What if I make the pizza naked?
I was going to
Well,
say,
then that
you're
I
not,
would
you're not
want.
seeing the whole picture
people do
here.
that. I
I
drink
know.
whiskey naked, and people pay money for it. So
Here's the thing. This is not something I ever considered in my life. Like, that's not my vibe. I got things to do. But kind of the older I get, the more into like, fuck it, I'm getting. And it's like, if this is a reasonable and semi-easy way to make money, I'm considering this.
Well, what
She's
do we?
big north of the border.
And I think people would pay for that.
What do we?
Fucking hey.
Yeah, they would. Well, Sam, what do you have to do? Like, how much skin do you have to show?
How much?
So, I mean,
pee?
you can obviously show whatever you want. I drew the line at hard dick because to me, anything soft, I'm good to go, and it's kind of funny to show off later. But anything hard dick, that's kind of porn, and if that leaks somewhere, it's just going to be embarrassing.
Leaks.
You know what?
Like
That's a hair trigger, man. That go off anytime.
when you're offered that primo job at the Pentagon in 9 months.
Yeah,
What's your story
that kind
background
of stuff.
check?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem with their new candidate as leader for Space Force. Evidently,
What happened?
there's
He
some.
used racial epithets. He played blackface in college. He went to one of those theme parties.
Oh, let me show you these images. He's wearing nothing but mechanics boots here and a welding mask with a
my.
super hard greased up hog
How do we know
in
it's
the middle
him?
of
There's
it.
a welding mask.
Now look, if his dick was flaccid, limp, soft, even in a leather phase, gentlemen, I could see us pushing along his nomination. But if he's
hands
got a
are
hard dick, our hands
Our
are
hand is forced.
our hands are tied. And speaking of tied
sounds
hands,
reasonable when you say it.
here's some bondage imagery. Again, if he was soft. So, Sam, you get naked, but you got to fluff yourself up a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely half chub. I mean, and once again, if this leaks, I want to at least look good. I mean, come on. I don't want a full softie there coming out of a cold shower or anything.
Right.
Yeah, the self-fluff, man, there's a fine line there, right?
There
It's kind of
is.
like plastic surgery. It's like you should look good, but we
Look
shouldn't
natural.
know it. We shouldn't
Yeah.
know
It's
it.
when the veins start to show, then you got to start, cooling down.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to have that conversation with my son. So how much have you made?
15 grand.
I'm at about 15 grand.
I'm
so far,
sorry,
and I started January 21st.
And, whoa, Gina, man.
I I don't have a choice.
No, you owe it to
Do you
your
think I'm going
unborn
to be
children.
I'm not ever going to be a homeowner without OnlyFans.
Someone's got to replace KFI.
Exactly.
Yeah, speaking about homeowner, these are all dudes, Sam?
It started off almost all dudes, but now I'm at almost 25% women, which is, it really makes me feel better about myself.
How do you verify that?
It gives you all statistics. I mean, there's always going to be the gay guys that go on and put themselves through as like fake women, and there's no way to really verify that, but it gives you all statistics on the people that sign up.
I would reckon that there's a few of those 25%, namely all of them, that are still gay dudes. But
realistically, what's in it for the person to list a different gender when they sign up?
I'm just trying to make Sam feel bad. That's all. I'm not basing it
A
on
lot of
anything.
people will try to message me individually and be like, "Oh, you should send me private pictures because I'm just alone in my room," and that's what they do.
I have a question for you guys, for Bryan and for Adam. Put yourself in my squalid shoes, in my impoverished shoes. If this was a very easy way for me to make, I just did a story about some woman who was making $150,000 a month. If Lynette or Christy was like, "Look, you want a house or don't you want a house?" How would you feel? Because I don't know if I can sell this to Andy.
Well, it's one of those things I think would have been formerly weird, but every day that goes on, we're now living in a new world order. Like if you would have tapped any of us on the shoulder and said, in the future, would you like your wife posing nude so you could make extra money too? And Dr. Seuss is being canceled. You'd be like, what?
This is not real.
What's going on? But I would say the new world order of everything goes and no more judgment and whatever floats your boat. I'd say it's certainly something that would have been a hard no X amount of years ago.
Right.
That everyone is kind of drifting into a.
Gina, can I tell you what I did to my fiance?
Yes, please. Yes.
So I made the executive decision to not tell her for a few weeks. Make up, I think I was at like $5 or $7 grand, and then I told her, hey, just so you know, started an OnlyFans, and we had a big fight about it.
I have some news for you, but first, here's a stack of cash.
Exactly, and then and she's like, "Would you make like $80?" And I'm like, "Nope." And then all was forgiven with a little bit of cash.
Was this girlfriend or wife?
Fiance.
Right in the middle. Yeah. All right. Well, look, Gina, nobody wants this more than me for you.
Thank you.
Well, no, there is someone.
That's important to me.
Oh, that's right. Larry Miller does. That's right.
That's right. But here's the thing. I've spent way too much, I've decided. Looking back, I've spent way too much of my life worrying about how it was going to affect future Gina. Well, future Gina's here, and future Gina's broke. So who cares?
Okay. I was going to say there's probably a large percentage of our male audience yelling at their devices right now for me to shut the fuck up. But would this harm or impact your things with the little one?
Oh, God, I was hoping no one would say that. But he's going to public school. They can't kick him out for this. Like the
I meant more with the original Gina 1.0. His mom.
Trust me, she couldn't be less of a fan. So it doesn't matter what I do.
She's not an only fan.
She's not my only fan.
All right. When Colonel Cockblock is done with his dissertation, I'd like to explore the nuts and bolts of this with Sam. So, Sam, according to my calculations, you took about 5% of your followers and moved them over to OnlyFans, right?
Yeah, that's about right.
So I don't know, Gina, do the math. I mean, how many of those Instagram fans you got?
I would subscribe. I'll tell you that right now.
Really?
It's one fan down.
How much do I ask for? Like $10 a month or what?
I started at, I think it was $12.99, and then I tapped it down to $10.
So I have 35,000 people on Instagram. So 5% of that. I don't do math. I just show my kids.
That's 17,500, 500, right?
And let's say say 15. But thank God you stepped on it. Say $15 a month.
Yeah. So
but you have to kind of look at it like what percent of your fans are following you because you're hot versus the stuff you cook versus because you're on the Adam Carolla show, all that kind of stuff.
Very small percentage.
versus all my followers were following me because I was hot.
Right. I don't, and that's the thing. I don't think I'm hot. I just think there's enough curiosity about what I might look like naked that they'd be willing to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that.
What are you agreeing with me for, Adam?
No, I know. I think you're hot. I think there's a high curiosity level. I think there'd be a strong tune-in factor.
Yeah.
And
tune-in Tokyo factor.
At 17.5, at 15, you'd be up around, I don't know, $26,000 a month or something like that.
Gina moves into a fucking palace.
Or somebody can do that math. Well, let's see.
You also have to consider OnlyFans will take 20%. So my real number, I think I made like 18 or 19 grand, but they take 20. Right off the
I'm
top
really
there.
opening my eyes.
Right. Yeah. You'd be a little under. I think you'd be about $26,000 a month. I think I did that math in my head. You guys can figure that one out.
Okay.
What is 15 times 17.5?
312,000-ish a year.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a year. I was
that's life-changing money just for showing
that is.
I was trying to do my monthly thing, but that'd probably work out. Now I got to do another fucking math. Max Spat, I see. Can you figure that one out? What is 15 times 17.5? Gary, go get Gary's. Dad's an accountant.
262.5.
262.5. So
6,000
a month. Can you guys believe I was a horrible student? Horrible.
No.
It's weird, right? I just worked out your $26,000 like on the fly, but I was a fucking horrible student. I got to believe somebody dropped the ball.
Yeah,
I must have fallen through the cracks.
If only we can find the culprits.
Yeah, well, there's Jim and Chris Carolla, but what about Mr. Tomey, my counselor?
A lot of blame to go around.
All right, Sam, we'll keep you posted. Gina, I would respect you and support this.
Thank you very much.
Kyle, 37 from Phoenix.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Guy.
Yeah, what's going on?
Hey, I just wanted to call and tell you real quick in light of the big anniversary last week or week before or whatever. Thanks for all the shows. Thanks for all the entertainment. It's been awesome. Kind of inspired by you and kind of pushing people to go be better than what they're doing. I'm in the process of a career change right now, so thanks for that.
Good. God bless.
And just curious, so the first show I ever heard was recommended by a buddy of mine on an economic level, ironically, and it was a wild rant from you about Occupy Wall Street. And I don't know if you even remember it, but that was the first one I ever heard, and I've been a daily listener since then. Do you have any recollection of that?
No, I just remember that somebody brought it up. I went on some sort of tear on it, and it somehow got some traction. It resonated with people, or they shared it, or something.
It was right after the LA Auto Show, and you were comparing self-entitled assholes during Occupy Wall Street to people who shit on the guys who won the LA Auto Show because, other people who couldn't handle it, they weren't as good as them. And I'm a mechanic, grew up in automotive, and now I'm in aviation, and so it just kind of rang home with me, going to a ton of shows and building cars for shows and stuff like that. So.
Well, it's not like me to use an automotive metaphor, but if you say so.
It does happen. Yeah, every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Kyle, and thanks for listening. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, man, keep it up. Love you guys.
Wait, what's the coolest car you've built?
Coolest car I've ever worked on was a 1953 Ferrari 340 MM for the Mille Miglia stuff.
Ooh, the Mille Miglia, which they they
made 6 of them. I think there's only 3 or 4 left. We worked on one for a lawyer up in Chicago owns it, and we were tuning it up for a rally down in Peru, I believe. We're getting ready to send it out there.
God, look, it's so crazy. I'm amazed at so many people who do so much with their life. I can buy this crazy priceless sports car and send it to Peru, and then I'm just going to go drive it on this course or on the street course or whatever. And then there are other people that never leave the fucking sofa and fret about everything. Are you guys kind of surprised that that there's this much range in human beings? You know what I mean? Like I went to the OK Zoo, and I got to go
terrible name
backstage. I know OKC Zoo, and I went back, and they gave me this little private tour where the elephants were being taken care of and housed and stuff like that. And they have their trainers with them, and they do the thing. They give them a little food treat. The elephant puts their foot up, and then the elephant opens its mouth, and then the elephant lays down. And it all looks like they're training the elephants to do tricks. It seems like they're at the circus, get back on your hind legs, open your mouth, put your foot out, do all these weird yoga positions and stuff, these giant elephants. But they're really just training them so they have access to their feet. If they have to work on their feet, or if they can see inside their mouth, or they can draw blood from them, they can call them over to the edge of the cage and they'll lay down, they'll get down on their knees and they get the blood out.
Right.
Well, all the stuff. But all elephants basically respond to the same thing and do the same thing and kind of act the same way. And some of them have little personalities. This one can be a little moody, but once you show her the banana, she loves the bananas, or the cantaloupe or whatever, she'll come over or whatever. So it kind of struck me. They had the baby one, they had the mama one, they had the big bull one,
There's nothing better than a baby elephant.
There's nothing better. And the little baby's learning the tricks, and doing all the stuff. But I was kind of thinking to myself, I wish humans would be a little more predictable. You know what I mean?
Less range.
Why so much? I mean, maybe that's why we're humans, but why is there an Elon Musk and my mom's friend Zorback, the hippie from the why they're both God's creatures. Why do they why is one of them so much this way and the other one's so much that way? And then when you're done watching the elephant and these trainers, which are like saints, seems like all women that I saw, but there's probably some dudes in there, and they're just there I was like, how often do you do this? Every day. Sometimes twice a day. We have to check all their shit, and they do all their stuff, and the elephants get all their treats and everything. And then you're driving back, and you're sitting in the back of the Uber, and you pass by the federal building that Timothy McVeigh blew up.
Just about to say.
And you're like...
We can produce a Mother Teresa, and we can produce a Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah, a lot of range. I just don't feel like they have that. There's no elephant version of, that elephant takes care of all the elephants in the world, and then that one blew up the zoo. It's not as much range. That's all. I don't know. Maybe maybe it's ultimately a good thing that there's so many colossally different human beings, but I don't know. I'd like to throw out, but then now you got to think about it. Do we trade a Tim McVeigh for an Elon Musk? Now, that's pretty easy because there's a bunch of dead people. But do we trade the bad ones for all the magnificent ones that are doing crazy things, or bringing innovation, or medical, the ones that save millions of lives with medical innovations, Madame Curie or something?
Leaving out the extremes like Tim, let's even include him. Would point of argument, would the great people seem as great without the Timothy McVeighs? You know what I mean? Of course, they would do great things, but even the mundane, the great among us, the ones who do a lot of charity or whatever, would that person seem as great without evil in the world? I think they would. I think they would, but it's always nice to have that loser sibling. I think we all know which one I am. Just so there's a little contrast. I'm with Brian. You know what I mean?
Even if you're not doing your best, you could say, at least I'm this.
Because if Elon Musk is my brother, then I become the black sheep of the family.
Right.
Every Dennis Quaid needs a Randy.
That's way to bring it full circle.
Wow.
All right. Let me tell you about Geico. Do you rent your home? Well, sure you do. I bet you work hard. How about you get a little bundling going? Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners and your renters' insurance along with your automotive policy. Speaking of auto, I took a few Uber trips while I was in OKC. I'm kind of liking it. I like the conversations, as crazy as they are, as I'm having with a lot of these Uber drivers about where they were from. They all seem to have relocated from somewhere.
Sure.
Hence, they're Uber drivers, and they're always telling me about the guy took me to the airport. He was in the service and telling me about where he used to live. And I'm realizing that I think Uber drivers are kind of the new bartenders, because when I grew up, I would watch TV shows, and it was always the bartenders like, having problems at home with the old lady. Well,
Tell me all about it.
Well, tell me all about it. But I don't feel like bartenders talk to you anymore.
No, far from it.
They're mixologists. They're not bartenders.
Right.
The place is too loud. They're too busy making an 18-step drink.
Yes, but the Uber guys and gals, they got all the time in the world. And I've just gotten hold of some of the most colorful Uber drivers. And I know people have this thing where they kind of don't want to talk to strangers, but strangers, here's the way I feel about talking to people. You either want them to be dear, proven, conversational friends you just look forward to talking. You know, you get to talk to a Mark Garagos or a Dr. Drew. It's like, oh, good, I love talking to those guys. Or give me the stranger. I don't want the in-between. That sort of friend is a friend of your wife, but you kind of know her.
Drag it out of them.
You got to be nice. You got to pretend. Yeah. I want the brand new conversation. And OKC had some of the best Uber drivers, the best conversations. And I don't know, what do you guys feel about that? You had any good Ubers lately?
Well,
not for a year.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing I can think of is you've come a long way from I believe it was our Uber.
You want a silent button. You wanted a silent button.
Yeah. Well, that, and you were nonplussed with how slow he was going and how we were like behind like a Mack truck, and you let him know and you let us know, making sure he heard.
Yeah.
Well,
you softened.
That's still a very important conversation I'm having.
That's right.
With my Uber driver.
Have you guys ever seen an Uber driver drive this slow back there?
Well, listen, I like to get where I'm going, and you got to have the desire to arrive. So anyway, go to geico.com, get yourself a quote, and see just how much you could be saving at Geico. That is geico.com. All right. Well, speaking of Elon Musk, and we're going to talk space and space exploration with Eric Berger, is a journalist. He's a space journalist and a meteorologist. Got a book. Take a quick break. Come back with Eric Berger right after this.
And now, a tip from the 1965 issue of Good Housekeeping. 120 Ways to Please a Man.
Dishes that require minimum attention after he arrives set free the nicest time of all, time you can spend with each other. If your intuition tells you he's weary, and it will the minute he steps in the door, let dinner wait till he's rested.
Just one of 120 ways to please a man. Now back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Not to mention making a mortgage payment from OnlyFans. Eric Berger is on the blower. Liftoff, Elon Musk and the desperate early days that launched SpaceX is available now on Amazon. It charts SpaceX's bumpy journey from scrappy underdog to aerospace pioneer. Good to meet you, Eric.
It's great to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
So let's see. We just landed on Mars a few weeks back, right? Got that?
Yeah, we have Mars Perseverance.
Who else is in the space game nationally beside SpaceX and NASA? Are there other entities that we're not aware of?
There are other companies that do things like launch rockets. Like there's a company that's owned by Boeing and Lockheed called United Launch Alliance. And they've been the company that's been most disrupted by SpaceX. But no one is trying to do what SpaceX is trying to do, send humans to Mars. That's seen as something that only governments can do, and no government's ever come close to doing it.
Well, tell me it's not a great analogy, but there's something to it. it used to be that if you wanted to broadcast, you had to get a license from the FCC, or you had to have an antenna, or you had to be on a network sitcom, you had to be on a network. And now, as we've seen, everyone's just launching their own satellite, pardon the pun, stations on YouTube and podcasts, and the list goes on, and who knows what's next. Does it seem like back in the day there was just kind of the big three networks? There was just NASA and international this and international that, and now the computer has opened it up to not everyone, but at least entrepreneurship?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when Elon Musk started SpaceX, his first goal was to bring down the cost of launch so that you could get more things and people into space. And over the last 20 years, he's really succeeded in that. There are still rules, like there's still an FCC for space. It's called the FAA, and you've got to get a launch license to go. SpaceX actually got in some trouble about 6 weeks ago when they launched without an FAA license. But that was a little bit of a brouhaha between Elon and a government agency, but it's since been smoothed over.
Is Elon kind of taking the position of you can't control me or what I do in space? I mean, and then why did the government sort of smooth it over or get over it? Do they see him as an asset or competition?
He's both. He's absolutely both. I mean, SpaceX would not be here today if NASA hadn't stepped in 2 times about 12 and 15 years ago with some key contracts. They saved him, but he at the same time really invigorates NASA. Right now, the only way NASA astronauts can get to the International Space Station is on Elon's rockets. And several years ago, they gave contracts to 2 companies. They gave it to the upstart SpaceX, and they gave it to Boeing, who was the blue chip company, right? Everyone's heard of Boeing. They build aircraft. Back then, they had a better reputation in aviation than I guess they do today. They gave Boeing 50% more money, and now here we are in 2021, and SpaceX is about to fly their 3rd crewed mission into space, and Boeing hasn't even gotten off the ground yet.
The whole Space Force thing you heard Trump talking about, we're all sort of having a laugh about it a couple of years ago.
It still exists, and we're in a new administration. It's still there.
Yeah. So what about that, and how necessary is that? And what is that going to be? It seems like in the future, maybe a little less reliance on the Marines and a little maybe more on Space Force. But tell us kind of the nuts and bolts or what you know of that.
Yeah. So basically, the Air Force for the last 50 years has had responsibility for protecting U.S. satellites, assets in space. And that includes both making sure they don't crash into one another, making sure that rockets go up, don't hit satellites, and making sure that foreign governments don't screw around with our assets in space. Those activities have now been taken out of the Air Force and put into this new organization called the Space Force. So it's mostly been a rebranding, but it does open up the possibility in the future for more activities in space. Now, the military has never put people into space before. That could change in the next 15 or 20 years.
Gina.
So you were talking about the military, but I'm wondering, in terms of space tourism, I have a story today. I was looking at a story from Orbital Assembly Corporation. They're designing what they want to be the first low Earth orbit hotel. And it's it's that big circular thing that's supposed to be similar to the gravity found on the surface of the moon. And it's only supposed to be a few years away. They said they would start constructing it.
Shit.
Yeah, constructing it in 2025. It could open as early as 2027. Do you have any intel or insight about this?
Yeah. First of all, in the space industry, there's a lot of hype. And this space station is pure fantasy.
Damn it.
They don't have the funding for that. I mean, it looks awesome. And that is that is a SpaceX Starship docked with that orbital facility. And you'd love to see something like that. The unique thing about that is that it spins. And so you actually have some gravity. Would love to see that, but that is not going to happen in 2027, which is their projected date, and probably not any time soon after that. However, what SpaceX has done in terms of bringing down the cost of launch, and if they get Starship to work, you're talking about taking up dozens of people, not 2 or 3 or 4. So that they're really solving the first step. And if they can bring down that cost, then you could start to see more facilities like this. But right now, I'm afraid. And it looks like those are all like little Dream Chaser vehicles attached to each of those rooms. I mean, that's like a $100 billion facility. So they're not going to build that this decade, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'll tell you there's a problem. The problem is the computer renderings and simulations. Like they go, oh, well, here's what we're going to do. And then they show you this amazing computer simulation of, well, the Uber lands on the roof of the Chrysler building, and then everyone just gets onto the electric Uber, and it's a sky Uber, and it drops you off at the airport, not using fossil fuels. And you're like, oh, that looks really cool. Yeah, because back in the day, it'd be a stupid model, and some guy'd have to hold it and point at it with a stick, and you go, well, that's never going to happen. But now with the sort of computer renderings and the animations, you go, look at that. That looks pretty good. I could see us get involved. But I guess you're still no closer to the actual thing than you were when it was a bunch of Tinker Toys put together and some guy in a lab coat was holding it above his head. Yeah,
I would say two things to that. First of all, you're absolutely right. People make renderings and grand.
Barb, it's been great. It's been great having you.
So people make promises all the time. You know, Richard Branson is building this spaceship system with Virgin Galactic. You know, he first said humans were going to go into space on that in 2007.
Right.
And now we're talking about paying customers maybe next year. So like, you know, you got to take everything with a huge grain of salt. And one of the reasons there's so much admiration for SpaceX and whatever you think about Elon Musk, in space, he has absolutely delivered. You know, over the last decade, they've built the world's best rocket. They've built the world's biggest rocket with the Falcon Heavy. They put humans into space. They've landed rockets on boats, which is absolutely unprecedented out in the Atlantic Ocean. And they're now the world's largest operator of satellites. I mean, they have delivered, and they're one of the few aerospace companies that has delivered. And so that's why you see all this attention on them.
Does he have other things he wants to explore? I mean, obviously there's Tesla, and obviously you hear about the Boring Company, the tunneling, you know, was going to do that thing through the Sepulveda Pass. I don't know if that's still on after we forced him out of California. And I know he's probably got his fingers in a million pies, but is there another area of passion for him that we may not be aware of, something in the medical field or some other field?
Yeah, I mean, clearly SpaceX and Tesla are his two main passions, but in the last several years, he's gotten really interested in AI. He's concerned that AI is an existential threat to humanity. And he started this company called Neuralink to basically study brain-machine interfaces. So like he wants, you know, our brains to be able to talk directly to machines. And he's claimed to make some breakthroughs in that area. And he's hired a bunch of, you know, PhDs and experts in brains to figure that out. I don't really understand it that much, but he is concerned that if we don't get AI right, it'll be like the Matrix and the machines will take over.
Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Judgment Day.
So, and you know, the weird part about being alive right now, you cannot really say, oh, poppycock, please. You can't say that to anything anymore because so much has happened so fast and so many innovations and so much, a lot of good and a lot of bad, but just the notion of saying that's impossible or that's never going to happen, everything is now on the table. I think that's kind of where we're at as a society. And I guess what he's thinking is that at some point it'll get past the point of no return, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, he has, with SpaceX from the very beginning, he has been told what he's trying to do is impossible. You know, no company ever built a liquid fueled rocket that gone to orbit, you know, private company before SpaceX. And he launched them from a tropical island in the central Pacific Ocean. I mean, it's just, imagine, you know, you've got super chilled liquid oxygen, which is hundreds of degrees below freezing, and you've got to ship that across the Pacific to your launch site without it boiling off. You know, he's been told he couldn't launch a bigger rocket. He's been told he couldn't dock to the space station. He's been told he couldn't reuse rockets. And now he's being told he can't go to Mars. I mean, he's probably going to get there because everything else he's been told he couldn't do, he's done.
Is he a guy like that? And then Brian's got a question too. It strikes me that a guy like that can't live in California because guys like that are always in a hurry. They want to do stuff fast and they want to like get it done, and they can't figure out why the bureaucracy and the government is just grinding the gears the whole time. Like, hey, hold on, slow your roll. You got to apply for a permit first, and then we have to put it through a review board. It just strikes me that most the guys of his ilk are in this constant hurry. Does he, or they want results? Like, is he that kind of guy?
Oh yeah, he's absolutely demanding. And if there's a barrier, he'll run through it or jump over it or get around it or try to knock it down. And that's why he ruffles feathers. And you're right, man. He is moving to Texas because he's sick and tired of the regulations in California. I think probably the COVID-19 was the last straw. He's now in a state today where the governor said, take off your mask. We're done with the mandate. Everything's open, next week. And he's very much of that mindset, like, government, get out of my way, let businesses, do what they can. So yeah, I mean, that's what the thing with the FAA, right? They license private space launches in this country to make sure that it's safe for surrounding areas, so that the rocket won't go astray and, hit a populated area. And he got fed up with sort of their foot dragging on a launch, like I said, a couple of months ago, and went ahead and launched. And the FAA got justifiably upset about that. And so that sort of launched an investigation. But as I say, it's sort of been cleared up since then.
Brian?
I'm curious if for the book you interviewed any current employees at SpaceX. I imagine you either did or you tried, but what I know of SpaceX, their employees everyone was very conscious of the image. Did you have trouble getting access? Did you have any difficulties, or was it pretty wide open? So
early on, I went to Elon, who was familiar with my work and reporting. And while he has disdain, I think would be the polite word for it, for most journalists, he respects my work to some extent. And so I said, I think it's time to tell the story of the Falcon 1 rocket, because that's where the DNA for this company was set in stone. And he was like, yeah, he's like, let's do it. And so at that point he said, come on to the factory, talk to whoever you want.
Oh, nice.
And so, I interviewed him at length, spent a lot of time sitting in on some meetings, talked to current employees, former employees, and basically everyone I wanted to talk to, I got to. So it's a pretty complete story.
What is going on with, I'm selfishly asking because I'm still in LA, with that tunnel that's going through the Sepulveda Pass, and which I never knew. Was it actually something that they started on? It's more into the artist rendering problem now, once again, like this is what it's going to look like. Right. But I'm never sure if that's what it is yet. You know where else? You ever look on those real estate websites and they got some really cool bitchin' modern house, and it's like, wow, that house is cheap. It's like, that's because it's not built yet. Yeah, they're selling you the land, and you could do that at $800
like that
a square
space
foot.
Hotel.
Yeah,
Right.
like the space hotel.
Hey, real quick, I just Googled it, and masstransitmag.com, which I can't believe we don't subscribe to, has an article from 6 hours ago about this, saying the headline is First Tunneling Machines reaches future LA Metro Wilshire / La Cienega subway station. This is the first of two TBMs that will reach this last station on Section 1 of the LA Metro D line extension project. So here's a picture of this giant machine.
From Ocean's 11.
Right.
Don Cheadle stole it.
That's right.
It's down there, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if that's Elon's thing but I'm always so curious about how. And by the way, I'm so thankful for the Elon Musks of the world. I believe these guys are the guys who solve many of these vexing problems. Like, we want clean energy, and we want to get rid of whooping cough, and we want people that are missing a limb to be able to communicate with their new prosthetic limb, and blah blah blah. I love it when you give it to these guys. I just love the private sector, because I believe the government wastes a lot of money and then eventually gets around to something, but it's always costs too much and takes too long. I love guys like this. But I'm also curious, Elon is now talking to Florida about building a tunnel there for $30 million. What?
Yeah, so
bargain.
Yeah, and it's a bargain, and the Miami mayor is going to Vegas mid-March to check out the tunnels he built there, just to to see how he does it, and it looks like that's what they're going to do is build one in Florida.
We always talk about Elon Musk, and Eric, you didn't write a burger. Eric Berger, you didn't write a book about someone other than Elon Musk. But are there a bunch of other Elon Musks floating around out there that don't have a good publicist or something? Like,
well, so you were talking in regard to that question. You were speaking earlier about sort of how he gets stuff done. I think that's right on point. I mean, I can't speak for you, but me, when I look around, I see a problem. I think, oh, that's a shame. It's like, oh, somebody should do something about that.
Yeah.
When the Elon Musk of the world see a problem, like, man, we're really putting a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and it would be much better if we were driving electric cars. He creates a company to build electric cars, or he looks around and says, well, NASA should be going to Mars by now. Why don't we go to Mars? I better start a rocket company. Like that's how he thinks, right? And there aren't that many of those people in the world. And the thing about him is that he now has a track record, right? I mean, he did banking, he did electric cars, and he's done rockets, and he's been successful at all three. So there are people who think like him, but there are very few sort of who have the determination, intelligence, and who, frankly, when you need to be an a-hole, can be an a-hole to get stuff done. So he's very rare. I mean, I'd put him on par with like a Jeff Bezos.
I would vote for a politician who basically said, I don't have any answers to anything, but I do have Elon Musk's home number. And look, we can fucking sit here and argue over wind versus solar versus fracking versus nuclear versus, we can argue over all of it. I'm just going to ask Elon what would be the best plan, and he'll put together a little blue chip committee, and then he'll get back to me in 6 weeks, and then we'll just do that. So if he says,
I'm not even sure Elon will put together a blue chip committee. He might do some Googling or read a book and get back to you like 30 minutes later and say, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, they're always talking. Dr. Drew, I guess, is always talking about, I think, the carbon scrubbers as far as like, instead of worry so much about what we're putting into the atmosphere, collect it and scrub it and clean it and put it back. Sort of, I guess, kind of like a catalytic converter. You know, if you think about what was coming out of an exhaust pipe, think about when you were a kid and your dad would fire up the car in the garage, your eyes would start watering and stuff.
You can smell it when the neighbor fired up the car.
Right. Now you can go, one of the weirdest things is being in like underground parking structures, standing next to the valet, and there's just a Honda Accord that's been running for 10 minutes, and you're just standing by the tailpipe, like nothing. It's still internal combustion. It's still gasoline. Somebody just invented a few things, but one of them is a catalytic converter, and we've now scrubbed it, essentially. I know he's talking about doing scrubbing. I don't hear anyone else talking about it, or any of the politicians talking about it.
Well, I think politicians, they want to argue about whether climate change is real or not. And Elon's attitude was like, there's lots of different ways you could attack the problem. And you're right. You could scrub CO2 from the atmosphere. You could plant trees. And his solution was to attack it at the source. So like a major chunk of this country's carbon dioxide pollution is coming from automobiles. So if we make automobiles that don't pollute, we've addressed the problem. And we can make some, by the way, people didn't like electric cars before he came along because they were slow and didn't have any acceleration. He's like, we're going to make some bitchin' electric cars and people are going to want to buy them. And so, he's largely succeeded at that.
I still think the new roadster he's got coming out, the new supercar, we turned this into an Elon fluff fest, but
we could talk about Pop-Tarts or something like that if you want.
I think that supercar he's building, I think he claims goes over 200 miles an hour, but I've not seen that yet. That may be a little hyperbole, but I don't know. Do you know anything about the new roadster?
I'm not a Tesla guy.
Well, become one.
All right.
The book is called Liftoff, Elon Musk and the Desperate Early Days That Launched SpaceX. I would say whether you're interested in space or not, it's just an interesting story about a crazy startup company. It's available now on Amazon, and you can, let's see, the website is at Ars Technica.com.
Ars Technica, yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you bet.
Eric Berger, thanks for joining us, my friend.
It's been my pleasure. Super, super awesome.
And when you come out with the new book, or you got an update for us, we'll do it. We'll do it again.
Awesome.
Thanks, Eric. All right, let me tell you guys about Bloomscape. Stuck indoors all winter and ready to say good riddance. Get the hell out of there. Bloomscape. Find the perfect plants for your space and keep them growing all year long. Bloomscape delivers healthy plants right to your door. Plus, the Grow How. See what I did there? Grow How you need to help them thrive. I just got the hedgehog aloe, and it is beautiful. You go online, you get the pot you want, you get the plant you want, and it just shows up right in the box. They just deliver it right to your door. New outdoor bloom kits and the easiest, most convenient way to get growing. Shop a variety of young plants, accessories, tools, supplies, everything you need to get your patio and porch springtime ready. It just does so much for the psychology around your house to have a beautiful plant. Completely customizable, mix and match sizes and colors. Go to Bloomscape, right, Dawson?
Get 15% off plant orders of $100 with promo code ADAM at bloomscape.com. That's 15% off plant orders of $100 or more at bloomscape.com. Promo code ADAM.
All right. Take a quick break. Come right back with the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral. Weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden. Kamala. Meet news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, let's start with some piping hot breaking news that came in during the show. I think that we need to mark the twine. We need to put this on the calendar. Joy Behar and Adam Carolla are in 100% lockstep agreement. I just got a notification on my phone saying that she is not happy that 6 Dr. Seuss books will no longer be published due to their stereotypical portrayals of people.
She knew him. She did him.
That's funny. In an impassioned monologue on The View Tuesday morning, Behar said that removing the books from circulation denies children a teachable moment, as eliminating controversial material prevents any discussion about why it's offensive. She says it's an absolute outrage to remove books, period.
Well, you know, I make fun of Slippery Slope Guy, but when this kind of cancel stuff started some years ago, we did a kind of slippery slope of like, oh, book burnings. Next thing you know, there'll be book burnings.
Never do that.
But you turn on the news and they're canceling out X amount of Dr. Seuss books, and Amazon is refusing to sell certain books. That there's one about transgender that they've canceled out or they've pulled off their platform. I think there's another one about, I think, Clarence Thomas. They like, now there's no more physical book burnings, but symbolically, what we were talking about, this sort of Orwellian future, or going back into, you know, Germany in the 30s or whatever time there was book burnings going on, that we kind of agreed was symbolically a very bad sign for any society. Mm-hmm. We're kind of literally getting to the book burning part of this process. We were
digitally.
Yeah, we were at, you know, change the name of the school from the old Confederate general and put a new name on there and that kind of stuff. And people were kind of like, all right, get that old Confederate general off of there. And there are things like, you know, they're like, oh, we don't think the Dukes of Hazzard should have the Confederate flag on the roof anymore. Like, we want, like, that sounds reasonable. But we're now drifting. We're going right into the book stuff now, and now it's getting a little symbolic because we're now getting into the ideas department. Yes, Brian?
How far we've come, because in the modern era of like burning art, destroying art, it's been the arena of the ultra conservative, right? Like the people burning the Beatles albums, literally bonfires, because they said they were bigger than Jesus, or because I think didn't Taylor Swift have like a destroy Taylor Swift album thing go on?
There was a Dixie Chicks version of that.
Yeah. So this in the modern American history, modern history,
a Chicks version.
Right. It's been the sort of religious driven thing, and now it's very secular.
And you got to think about the folks that make their living putting up letters on a marquee when Lady Antebellum and the Dixie Chicks are coming to town. You're going to lose a lot of cash because now we're just at Lady.
Yeah, Lady A.
Lady A and Chicks, and you get paid by the letter.
By the letter?
I know that business well. I used to have worked in that business for many years. Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a flat rate.
No, of course.
Okay.
No, you couldn't do that. There's no way that Sly and the Family Stone cost the same as Styx.
It's Kiss. Yeah.
No,
right.
when Engelbert Humperdinck came to town, it was a big day.
That makes sense. I get it.
Yeah. Now I don't say Sly and the Family Stone and Styx are playing the same night.
Yeah, that'd
a
be
different
a weird concert.
crowd, but yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget the Dixie Stampede at Dollywood. That is now just the Stampede, though I do think the North and South are still fighting while you eat your, fried chicken and cheer on your countrymen.
The band Styx is with a Y, right?
It is.
Indeed, like the River Styx.
STYX.
Is it based on something? Because
River Styx.
Is it based on the River Styx?
It has to be.
I don't know. Listen, I'm from North Hollywood. We just had the LA
This
River.
is the cookie argument over again.
Yeah,
the cookie thing all over again.
I didn't even know where the river.
The River Styx. It's
definitely where they grabbed it from. Yeah,
being out in the sticks. Does that have anything to do with it? No.
Where's the River Styx?
I don't know where the River Styx is either.
Gina's a Jew. She can get away with this, but it's the river that they took you across to get to the afterlife. Or to get to
in Greek mythology. It's the pathway to Hades.
Oh,
yeah.
Going to hell.
Hades. That's not good. Yes, Styx is a deity and a river that forms the boundary between Earth and the underworld.
There you go, Brian.
First time hearing of it.
I didn't know any.
That's what you get when you didn't have friends and you read a lot of books.
I know.
Growing up.
I didn't
a lot
have
of Dr. Seuss.
I didn't have any religion whatsoever. But
I don't have any friends. So here we are.
All right. Well, now you know.
This will make the show go.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm still reading. It says, in order to cross the River Styx and reach Hades, a dead person must pay a fee to the ferryman.
That's why they would put pennies over your eyes, and that's where the custom comes from. So you could pay the ferryman, who was like a skeleton, Dawson, who like had a oar or something.
Yeah, it was essentially like a gatekeeper thing. I mean, Adam, we talked 2 weeks ago about you hated movies like Clash of the Titans.
Yeah,
even the early one. There's the scene where they got to cross the river Styx and pay the ferryman.
Oh, I think I decided I hated it before I saw it.
Right.
So I didn't see it, which I like to do with movies and cultures,
right.
That's right.
By the way. So
this is very different than...
Consistent.
Yeah, this is very different than the Rainbow Bridge for your animals.
Yeah.
I don't like the River Styx.
Yeah, did not know that.
So... as was mentioned a few minutes ago, Texas Governor Greg Abbott will lift the state's mask mandate and announce businesses can be completely reopened at full capacity. That'll be coming up in about a week. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat that, of course, isn't as fun to report, so it's not in any of the headlines. But he's basically saying the state has lifted it, but each jurisdiction is going to have to do what's right for them. But he said that COVID has not suddenly disappeared, but that the state mandates are no longer needed. The repealed rules include doing away with limits on number of diners or customers allowed indoors. So it's kind of back to normal if your region allows it. Abbott said his new executive order would rescind most of his prior COVID-19 executive orders and that all businesses would be allowed to reopen 100% effective March 10th.
Wow. Well, it kind of, as someone who doesn't live in that area, I mean, first off, we just got back from Oklahoma City. The club was full. The restaurants are full. I mean, they're ostensibly doing it. Most people wear masks. But wouldn't we like to kind of do a little canary in the coal mine, like go, all right, you lift it, and we'll check back with you in a week to 10 days and see how this is treating you. And what I would say is you don't have to use it as a template, but if Texas just goes full frontal, 2 weeks from now, if nothing is happening, can we say as Los Angelinos and Californians, hey, man, they dropped it and they seem to be doing okay. Can we ease some of our things? Now, it would have been nice if Disneyland had got a shot to do what they're doing in Disney World. Are you guys amazed that Disneyland is still closed?
We just mentioned that 2 days ago.
Well, it's being used as a vaccination site, which is so Orwellian.
Oh, man. But they're physically on the Matterhorn, which is made for almost chaos. People getting stabbed in the ear, stabbed in the eye.
They
really
should have thought that out.
poorly thought out.
Maybe it's a small world. Maybe.
But the teacups, unmitigated
terrible.
disaster.
No
Magic Mountain. I got to look it up, but I think they're opening up some sort of a walking tour where you can like walk through the park and eat, and people will be, I'm sure they will break down the gates just to get in there.
It's
and
going to
just
be quite a
Yes.
rush.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so let's see how Texas fares. I hope they
But
fare
Adam,
well.
use canary in a coal mine as an example. That was used so human life wouldn't be risked to see what happened. Like the canary would die so that we can get everyone out of there.
Yes.
Well, we kind of,
the flying.
I do agree with you in principle. Yes.
Flying the ointment. Yeah. No, we want to. I don't suspect. Well, so here's the thing. I think the therapeutics are much better now. I think they understand how to deal with it and who to put in the hospital and who not to put in the hospital and what to do with them before they make that decision. Whereas, of course, we're all like, go to the hospital and lay on your back and put a ventilator on. And, of course, we're wrong about everything.
Then it was don't go to the hospital.
Right. So
for anything.
I'm assuming there's not going to be a lot of deaths just because of the therapeutics now and our understanding of how it works and treatments. But I am curious about the spread and infections and how that is affected. Or is there some form of herd immunity? And it's funny, the herd immunity thing is kind of right up there with the effectiveness of the vaccines. When the vaccines came out, they were like, manage expectations, like 70% maybe on a good day, 70%. And then herd immunity, they had like at 90% or above 70% or something high. I think the vaccines are definitely more effective than 70%. Now they're saying like 99 or 95, 90, whatever percent.
Right. And there was a new one. Who was it?
Johnson & Johnson.
No, a new one. Like from today. No, I'll think of it. It was from this morning.
Merck?
Yes. Merck.
Nice.
I think it is Merck.
Yeah.
And also,
Genentech will eventually get to every company.
Ryan worked as a lobbyist for Big Pharma for several years. On a local level, but he's familiar with all.
Well, then I would love your take on this, because the other headline today is Biden now says the U.S. will have enough vaccine for every adult by the end of May. I mean, there might be enough, but how the hell are we going to distribute it?
I will say, I don't know what your guys' experience is. I imagine it's not the same. Just from I know that my group, the pre-existing conditions, is in LA County set to be eligible on March 15th. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing like a little recon work, right? I'm going on the website. I'm just saying I'm 65 years old just so I can see how to sign up for an appointment, just so I know what I'm doing when I do it. It is impossible to find an open appointment. Like everything is. Oh, I'm sorry. This Rite Aid is not accepting. This CVS is all. It is borderline impossible. I have spent hours researching this, and it's bound to be a clusterfuck.
Well, so that's why I keep saying to everyone else, I am counting on all of you, because I'm behind the entire homeless population of Los Angeles, which is huge, the entire prison population, and children and people who, like the little ones who aren't really showing to get sick. I'm behind everybody, and so are you, Adam. So I'm counting on everybody else.
Well, speaking of the canary in the coal mine, 2 years ago, I said to Matt, the porcelain punisher Fondelier, sign me up so I can get my license renewed out here in Los Angeles. And he was online for 3 days and was like, you can't do it. You have to go to the other end of the state. And I'm like, how is it during the computer age that we don't have? You have a computer. The DMV has a computer. Why don't we just sign up and renew it online? Or it's like they're not. I can't get through. They're not accepting. And aren't
they still taking checks?
Wasn't that part of it? That's all they would take.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I showed up with a credit card because I live in 2000 at the time in 2020. And they're like, we don't take credit cards, but we have a pilot program where we're thinking about. It's like
where we have the Dillards.
Exploring.
We have the old Macy's machine.
Right.
We can use it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's my thing. If you live in a city that can't get its shit together with a DMV, good luck with a vaccine. That it's not. They don't exist in vacuums or bubbles in my world. It's a group of people. It's like bureaucrats. They have a large populace, and they have to figure out how to work with that large population. Either getting them the global transit ID, or renewing their Dodge pickup truck, or getting a needle in an arm. Like, it's just basically, you got a bunch of people who live in a city, they have X amount of dollars, and they go, how are we going to approach this problem, and how do we fix it? And if you can't sort out the DMV, then I would bet you that if you found cities, you could find a direct correlation between their DMV running for shit and getting vaccines out. I don't think there's any place that have knocked it out of the ballpark with the vaccines, and their DMVs are hellholes. I'll bet you it's a straight line. I bet the Tel Aviv DM. I bet the Department of Motor Vehicles in Tel Aviv is fucking, or Jerusalem is awesome, and they're fully vaccinated over there. Like, yes,
it's funny you mentioned offhandedly. You mentioned, like, if you want to get anything, DMV or whatever, renew your license, go to the ends of the state. On Friday I awoke to the best man for my wedding texted me. He's like, "Hey, my wife's friend is a nurse out in Ukaipa. And she's got some extra, they have extra doses at the end of the day. So here's her number." And as appreciative as I was, I had an Adam Carolla moment in bed where I'm like, this is what it's come to. This is what I may drive to Ukaipa. For people outside the area, explain where fucking Ukaipa is in the middle of goddamn nowhere.
Can't be done.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this is what it's come to. This is where we are now. I'm considering driving to the end of the state to get a vaccine.
Yeah. Well, I went to the DMV in Monterey just because that was the only one I could find. I mean, I was going to be in Monterey, and the LA ones are unusable, or there's no information to be had. Inaccessible. They're on. And in this day and age of everyone with the computer, like, you can't get any info off the website, or you can't sign up, or you can't.
No, it doesn't give you options. It makes you choose, and then revels in telling you it's not open.
Right. So I don't know. What if Elon Musk would move to Los Angeles and fix the DMV? Would you go for that? Like, here's my whole thing.
Oh my God.
That'd be great.
I just feel like all the city council people are just the most, like, feckless, sort of self-entitled, like, ineffective, bloated, like, just we need to figure out a new system or something, because shit just doesn't work. And I don't feel like, they're always kind of going, we need more resources. I don't know. I feel like you guys squander tons of money and we still have a bad result. This is essentially cafeteria food. You guys get plenty of money and the food is still slop. All right.
Well, and I just to get the headline in because it's too good. I'm sure you guys have seen in the last few days the headline: California Teachers Union president who led school closures charge seen dropping daughter off at in-person preschool.
Yes.
So it just feeds the story that we can't get our heads out of our asses.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but I don't. I mean, we're gonna have. California needs like an R. Lee Ermey type to resurrect from the dead and just show up and just go, I'm fucking cleaning house.
Get on your knees, scumbag!
This is an unmitigated fucking disaster. The more votes we take and the more money you get and the bigger and more bloated their bureaucracy gets, the worse everything turns out. Like, we got to start going lean and mean. We got to figure something out.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
That's Arlie.
Watch that.
Talking to California.
Oh.
We're Private Pyle.
That's right.
We have one magnificent skill. Remember, he was a great sniper, but
Right.
he was just fat and lazy and stupid and couldn't stop eating jelly donuts.
Right.
So what's our skill? We have good weather.
Malibu.
Yeah, exactly.
our
That's
skill.
it. Well, we have the beach and we have beautiful horizons.
All right, let me hit Geico over here. Do you own, do you rent your home? Will you do one or the other? Sure you do. And now you want to bundle with your automotive policy, and you can do that at Geico. Take your owner's or your renter's insurance, bundle it up with your automotive policy. It's a good thing, too. You got so much to do already around the house. You just go to geico.com, get a quote, see just how much you could save, because Geico makes it that easy to get your bundle on at geico.com. That is geico.com. All right, let's do one or two more, Gina Grad.
All right. Well, just to keep up with the accusers for Governor Cuomo, a third woman has come forward accusing him of inappropriate behavior, this time at a wedding when he allegedly introduced himself and then asked to kiss her. And we have a picture from that moment, by the way.
Oh, my.
So he's
Number 3.
So just real quick to get to this part. This is, where is she? I have a whole list here.
They're at a wedding, I think.
They're at a wedding, and he gave some sort of a toast, and he's going around glad handing. And, she says, thanks for, the nice thing you said about my friend. He apparently and allegedly puts his hand around her back, and then she kind of like moves away. He calls her aggressive and then cups her head in his hands and asks to kiss her. He has, this is not the first time we've heard something like this. And she wasn't down. We've also heard another woman was invited to play strip poker, and he tried to plant one on her as well. And there is another one. But de Blasio has thoughts on this as well. Mayor de Blasio says, if someone purposely tried to use their power to force a woman to have sex with them, of course, that's someone who should no longer be in public service. Essentially saying if this all fleshes out, you need to step down.
Another one.
Yeah, the problem always is when, you get all this footage of Cuomo explaining, zero tolerance for this kind of behavior and women should all be believed and all that kind of stuff. And so then there's this rich history of you saying that. And now there's this. This is why when somebody, 18 months before your own scandal breaks out, when someone goes, do you believe all women should be heard? I don't know.
I mean, most for sure.
And you down with the Me Too movement? Hey, whatever floats your boat,
There you go.
Because then they won't trot out all the footage of you being sanctimonious about the movement.
And that's just half his problem. We still have underreported COVID numbers that he has to deal with as well.
Yeah, it's funny.
Another one.
My thing with him is like. Also, it's probably why you should tamp it down when people are trying to build you up too fast, because we
Give
were
you an Emmy?
so in love with this guy 6.5 months ago, and it didn't seem like it was much of it was based on anything, and now it's all like coming undone. And then the guy you have to really feel sorry for is his brother, Chris Cuomo, who's like, because now there's all the footage of him yakking it up and laughing it up on his show, and now he can't report on it. Although he could report on it. He's just reporting. He had him on during COVID, and they reported on it. But
that was a good get. He had him every night.
I know. So Chris Cuomo's thing is like, I'm a journalist, and here's the rules. I can do all the reporting I want on my brother as long as everyone loves him. But now that he's in a shitstorm, of course, it'd be unethical for me to report on him. It's like, that seems like a weird distinction to make from a journalistic standpoint.
That's why I was confused when we brought this up the other day, and I said, what does Chris think? And everyone just kind of said, well, he can't. And I thought, he can't? I mean, he could.
He can say what everyone else says.
CNN is taking the bullet and saying, we're not letting him do it.
Right. So, yeah. So he's probably in trouble, but he's here's what we kind of figured out. you're either useful or you're not useful. He was useful for a while. He's not useful now. So
Right.
he's gone. He'll go the road of Al Franken, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or whomever on either side. When they need you, they need you. When they don't need you, then you're gone. So he's going to be gone.
Right. Well, let's
talk about the recall of the Emmy, because that's a pretty legitimate discussion to have now, right?
Yeah, you're right.
They took Reggie Bush's Heisman away for much less.
Right. That's right. The great Reggie Bush. I know. Reggie Bush got a couple of fucking custom rims on an Impala wagon, and they took
His
it away.
parents lived in an apartment for free.
Yeah.
But do you think it made him a better running back?
I don't. Look, I would feel the same way like when I remember watching the news like a million years ago, and it's like, this guy, he won the WBA welterweight world champion of the world, but he was stripped of his title after testing positive for marijuana. Like, you think that really helped his performance in the ring?
How about poor Vanessa Williams?
That's right.
Having her crown taken away.
Because of some penthouse
Some
photographs.
steamy photos.
Some tasteful photos.
That's right.
With a lady friend, I do
right.
believe.
Indeed.
So Cuomo received his Emmy, right? Does he have to give it back, or do they take it back? And then, of course, then the problem is you could probably find it for when they were giving him the Emmy, they had every single blowhard celebrity doing an ass kiss-a-thon of Cuomo about what a great man he is and how he deserves this and how he's number one and everything like that. And these are the same people that are the tip of the spear for the Me Too movement. So now there's archived forever of them talking about what a great individual he is. It's just... It's what happens when we go after everybody. It's just they'll eventually get to There are, it's weird. Nobody's above anything anymore. As long as if you're useful, will keep you. I think in most of these situations, when we're done with it, we're done. I mean, because a lot of this stuff, certainly the nursing home scandal, that thing's 10 months old. That's an old scandal. We needed Cuomo for a while, and now we don't need him. And the Me Too stuff, that's been floating around for a little while too, but that's, again, now it's all coming out. And now he's gone because he's not going, if it's your side, back to Reggie Bush, when he was carrying the rock for the great USC Trojans, he had 11 guys or 10 guys on his side and him, and then 11 guys on the other side trying to stop him. And that's kind of how politics works a lot of time. Now he has half his offensive line not blocking for him and trying to tackle him. So essentially, Cuomo has his own side coming after him, and that ain't going to last. Sorry.
At least they're consistent. That side, they're happy to eat their own.
Yep. That's the way it works.
Well, because this story is, go ahead.
Also, his hair was getting a little too young for his face, just a little bit. For me, that's the real reason.
That's the tell.
We got a clean house. He's starting to wrinkle up pretty good, but the hair still had a good black sheen to it. Just a little bit. The thing that's kind of funny too is when you watch the news now during the whole greatest governor in the universe COVID deal, they were showing these shots of him where he looked like a hero. Now they're doing these like kind of tight shots where you can see the wrinkles and he's looking creepier. Yeah, they go, get a shot where he looks a little more like this and a little less like that. All right, one more, Gina Grant.
All right. Well, just because this is something we usually bring up, the day or two after, and by tomorrow, frankly, I don't think we'll care. Barely anyone seemed to watch the Golden Globes on Sunday. Ratings for the award show hit an almost all-time low with an estimated 6.9 million viewers. By comparison, last year's show had 18.33 million viewers.
Wow. That's a big difference.
The only one it beat out, and I mean by a razor, is 2008 when the writer's strike forced the cancellation of the ceremony and reduced it to a press conference. That was only just barely less at 6 million as opposed to 6.9 million.
This is a harbinger. You remember this when the Oscars come around and their ratings are all-time low. This will be a trend. It's funny, we talk about the Golden Globes as a predictor of the Oscars. They're not really. This will be a predictor of the Oscars.
Viewership.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, last year wasn't a virtual show, was it?
No,
If
no,
it would
it
have
was
been
just before. It was
right
just
before.
Yeah, literally a couple weeks.
Because this is later. Because the Oscars last year were end of February, which means the Golden Globes must have been beginning of February, something like that.
And
That
by the way,
should have been a super spreader event with all those drunken,
It may have
sloppy
been.
celebrities
It
all
was.
kissing on each other and
Yeah.
drinking champagne.
sweating, crying. Also, 2 years ago, I think was the cutoff when it was so much fun to be part of the union and get all these first run movies sent right to your house and people are begging to borrow them and it's a big deal. I have gotten nothing but DVDs, which I don't have a DVD player anymore, and everything is streaming. So why are they wasting their money on this?
The vast majority can be watched for free.
What are they
on
doing?
a service or rented.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I wonder if Hollywood, I feel like Hollywood has kind of woke itself into a little bit of a corner. I feel like they've lost the mainstream of America because people look at them as kind of like elitist. I haven't even heard of these films
Blowhard,
anymore.
yeah.
And it's,
I think the second thing is definitely true. I can tell you from people I've talked to, we talked about on the show, when the Golden Globe nominations come out, you're like, I haven't heard of most of these movies, let alone seen them.
right. And I think there's the thought that, they're only doing this movie because it's a woman of color or something like that. And they're giving it, and they seem, I feel like their wokeness, they're over the top. They've always been pretty woke and pretty progressive. And I think people kind of thought that was cute, or they even may have liked it, or made it seem very Hollywood. But they've gotten so almost sort of militant in like the last few years that I think they've just painted themselves into some corner, like where they've just not embracing enough of the way folks think, and their average people, quote unquote, from Oklahoma City.
Your people.
Yeah, my people. Like, I think they're alienating a lot of people. And I think there's a lot of people are like, fuck that. Like, I'm not going to watch that anymore or whatever. And I don't think they're doing themselves a service. I think they should be a little more inclusive, open it up a little more, like be a little, ironically, a little less inclusive and open it up. So I think their brand is hurt. And I think that it's reflected in the Oscars and the Golden Globes.
I think you're right. Just as you said that, I just had this weird hypothetical in my mind, and I would love for you guys to weigh in on it. What if what happened with La La Land and Moonlight specifically happened this year, but the other way around, and they accidentally announced Moonlight?
Well, that's funny you mentioned that, Gina, because when Adam, tying it back to what Adam was saying, whether it's part and parcel or whether it's one chicken and the egg, I think the wokeness is either reflected or perceived in a lot of the Best Picture winners of the last few years. Like even Parasite last year, which is a very good movie, but like I think it was so niche and so fringe, and a lot of people hadn't seen it, and many people had heard of it, before the Oscars and nominations were announced. That I think people are like, oh, it only won because it was this. Same with Moonlight, which is what reminded me of it. Same with there's been many examples over the last few years.
I think you kind of stumbled onto something there, Gina, which is that Moonlight. Sorry, what was the other film?
La La Land.
La La Land. Sorry.
Which was a much more traditional Best Picture.
Like very Busby Berkeley, big money.
Yeah, enjoyable. I feel like that may have been the jump the shark moment, that they literally both were on the stage and we took it away from one and gave it to the other, sort of very visually and graphically and symbolically. You could kind of mark that as the beginning of sort of the downward movement. Now, the audience had been shrinking, I think, before that. Maybe ratings had been shrinking before that. But that was very symbolic. Very symbolic. You couldn't have taken two movies that were more old guard and more new school, right, symbolically. And that moment was kind of the moment where you went, oh, this is where we're heading now. And I would just suggest a course correction. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Last but not least, there is Simply Safe. It just takes 30 minutes. You can set it up yourself. It's a home security system by Simply Safe. 2 eyes in there, simplysafe.com/Adam. Get all the sensors you want. Customize your system. Shows up in about a week, and it's up and running in about half an hour. And you get a free security camera. Sign up today for that. All right. I want to thank Eric Berger for coming on and telling us about his book, Liftoff, the Elon Musk story, essentially. Go look that up. Available now on Amazon. Reno, Virginia Street Brewhouse, March 19th and 20th, doing some stand-up there. And you can join us in the Jam in the Van Speakeasy, March 25th. Going to be up there with Adam Ray doing shows, free Mangria, cannabis given away. Dawson doing stand-up there. Woo!
This is a not miss.
Yes, do not miss this. Waukegan, Genesee Theater. Just go to amcarolla.com for all the live shows. Until next time, it's Adam for Eric and Gina and Bald saying mahalo.